Maybe you've heard the phrase, let go and let God. Sounds super spiritual, right? And I think at its best, it can be a good thing. You know, the idea is you stop striving so much. Stop trying to do all the work on your own and just let God do the work. Just let go and let God. But I think what we're in danger of is spiritual passivity. I've heard so many guys over the years complain about their jobs. Doesn't pay enough. They can't provide for their families. The hours are terrible. They never see their families. Their boss treats them horribly, and it's not because of any gospel reason. It's just they get treated horrible. They hate it, and so I'm like, well, why don't you leave? Find a new job. Start applying. And well, I'm going to wait and see what God does. And it makes me wonder, do they have Gideon's fleece somewhere? Because I want to get a hold of that if I can. I've got some things I want to ask of the Lord, see His will about. But it sounds spiritual, but I think it's really a wait-and-see approach. And if we're honest, the wait-and-see approach is an avoidance approach. It's wait till the problem resolves itself. Avoid that hard conversation. Avoid that conflict. And wait and see. It's passive. Well, we're looking at Ruth 3, 1-5. And they did not let go and let God. We're going to see that. Nobody in the book of Ruth is avoiding acting. They're acting righteously, but they're acting. They're not being spiritually passive. Ruth 3, 1-5. Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, "My daughter, should I not seek rest for you, that it may be well with you? Is not Boaz our relative with whose young women you were? See, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Wash therefore and anoint yourself, and put on your cloak, and go down to the threshing floor, but do not make yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. But when he lies down, observe the place where he lies, then go and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do." And she replied, "All that you say, I will do." All right, I want to put aside the content of the plan for 1 second, because we could spend a lot of time talking about that. And I want to focus on one aspect. John Piper talks about this passage and that Naomi and Ruth and Boaz in this book enact strategic righteousness. Strategic righteousness. Naomi has a plan. You can question whether it's a good plan, and it's certainly a risky plan, but it's a plan. And right here what we have is Naomi enacting a plan that she believes will get Ruth rest, as she calls it. Now you got to remember, Ruth is an older, widowed, foreign woman. Not many Israelite men were looking for that combination in a lady. But Ruth and Naomi have been discussing the interactions that she and Boaz have been having, and they have a plan that maybe, just maybe, Boaz feels something for Ruth. And so Naomi hatches this plan, and it is a risky plan. Boaz could misinterpret it. It could be misunderstood. It's risky. But they think they understand what Boaz is hinting at in the wheat fields. And they aren't passive. Far from it, they take a risk and they trust God in doing so. And what's the end result for Ruth? She and Boaz are married. And they have a son. Who has a son, who has a son, who has a son. And eventually we get David. And eventually from David, we get Jesus, the one who would save us. What would have happened if they would have stayed passive? None of that. Now, it's not as if the plan of God can be thwarted, but I just want to point out that God used the strategic righteousness of Naomi, of Ruth, and of Boaz in this story to not only save Ruth and Naomi from destitution, which widows were in this time period, but also to bring about our salvation. And so maybe the next time we're tempted to be passive, to wait and see what God actually wants us to do, is to make a plan, a righteous plan, to act it out, and to see what He is going to do through it. And it's not as if we can expect that He's going to do as grand a thing as He does through Ruth and Boaz here. But who knows what He might do if we stop being passive and start being active and be strategically righteous.